Hey everyone, ready to dive into some seriously interesting political stuff.
Always.
Okay, so today we're going deep on President-elect Trump's Time Person of the Year interview.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, and we're not just skimming the headlines.
Right.
We're going way deeper to figure out his real vision for this second term,
Exactly. What's he actually planning?
Yeah, and how it might actually, affect all of us.
It's going to be a wild ride, I can already tell.
Right. And get this, he's already talking about stuff that doesn't even need Congress to sign off. Elon Musk's role in streamlining the government.
Okay, that's interesting.
I know, right?
Okay.
And he even kind of hints at a possible Trump dynasty down the road.
Whoa, hold on. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start with the interview.
Okay, you're right.
What I find really interesting is this interview is basically Trump's playbook.
Yeah.
He's not just celebrating the win.
Right.
He's literally laying out his strategy for the next 4 years.
Yeah. It's like a sneak peek into his brain.
Exactly.
So right away, right off the bat, he's talking about how he ran a flawless campaign.
Of course he does.
And how his focus on border security and immigration won in the election.
Right, which has been a consistent theme for him.
Totally. But then he says something really interesting. He
Yeah.
says he knew there wouldn't be, riots on election night because of how big his rallies were.
Okay, so is that some real insight?
Yeah.
Or just him, spinning things his way?
It's hard to tell, right?
It's Trump being Trump,
Yeah, for sure.
But what's really, revealing is how he talks about getting votes for his nominees.
Oh, yeah.
It gives us a look into how he operates politically.
Right.
And how he might use that, to deal with a Congress that might not always agree with him.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right.
So speaking of those nominees,
Yeah.
let's talk about RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, those picks definitely got people talking.
I mean, they definitely raised some eyebrows.
For sure.
I know.
Yes, and the interview actually, addresses those concerns head on.
What?
With RFK Jr., it's the, vaccine skepticism thing.
Yeah.
And for Gabbard, it's those ties she had to Russia in the past.
Right. Correct.
Trump tries to kind of deflect responsibility.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Probably.
Yeah.
But let's be real. These appointments are strategic.
I think so, too.
They're not random.
No.
They fit into his larger plan.
It's like a chess game, right?
Totally. Every move is calculated.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really, really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
He puts Elon Musk in charge of DOGE.
DOGE.
Yeah, it stands for Department of Optimization of Government Effectiveness.
Oh, right. With Vivek Ramaswamy?
Yep, that's the one.
That's where I start to wonder about, conflicts of interest.
Oh, totally.
Can Musk really be objective?
Right.
When he's overseeing agencies that regulate his own companies.
It's kind of like the fox guarding the hen house.
Exactly. Think about it. The impact on, electric vehicles.
Oh, yeah. Or space travel. Things that could directly affect you, the listener.
Right. It's not just some abstract political thing.
No, it's real world stuff.
So Trump says that, Musk is putting the country first.
Uh-huh.
But is that really enough?
It's a good question.
Right.
Is that enough to, really address the potential for bias?
Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of skin in the game.
Exactly.
And you know what else he said?
What's that?
He admitted that he wasn't happy about the authors of Project 2025.
Oh, that controversial plan.
Yeah, releasing the document before the election.
Interesting. So he didn't want that out there yet.
It seems like it.
Which makes you wonder, how much control does he really have?
Over these powerful groups, right?
Yeah, within his own party.
Okay, so let's move on to the border.
Right.
Which is a major thing for Trump.
Always has been.
Right.
It's a cornerstone of his platform.
Yeah, and he's doubling down on his tough stance.
Okay, how so? He's even suggesting using the military for deportations.
Wow. That's a bold move.
I know, and it definitely brings up some serious legal questions.
For sure, it's not a simple issue.
No, not at all.
And then he talks about using tariffs to, pressure other countries.
To take back deportees.
Right, which could, start trade wars.
Yeah.
Mess up global supply chains.
And you know what that means.
What?
Higher prices for, everything.
Basically, it could end up hitting your wallet.
Exactly.
So there are real consequences to consider.
For sure. And he also says he can secure the border.
Uh-huh.
Without even needing Congress to agree.
Wow, that's a big statement.
I know, right?
Especially considering how complicated immigration reform is.
Yeah.
And how you really need both parties to work together to make it happen.
totally.
It sounds like he's ready to act alone.
Yeah.
Maybe using executive orders to get around Congress.
Interesting.
And he also addresses those rising food prices we were talking about.
Oh.
He suggests, letting in more legal immigrants.
For, like, farm work.
Exactly, specifically for agriculture.
Interesting.
But then there's his stance on family separations at the border.
Right. That's a tough one.
He blames the Democrats for it.
Even though it happened during his first term?
Yeah, so you, the listener, really need to pay attention here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of finger-pointing going on.
It's complicated, right?
Right. The reality is much more nuanced.
Not just black and white.
Exactly, like policy changes, court rulings.
And how things were actually implemented.
All of that played a role.
Right. It's not so simple to just blame one side.
Exactly. And to make things even more interesting, he then claims that there are over 325,000 migrant children missing from the previous administration.
Whoa.
That number is definitely going to spark some debate.
Yeah. People are going to want answers.
And probably more investigations.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah, it's already looking like a controversial term.
You think?
Yeah, and we haven't even gotten to foreign policy yet.
Oh, man. Buckle up, everyone.
It only gets more complicated on the world stage.
Oh, I bet.
Let's dive into that next.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So where were we?
We're about to get into the foreign policy stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Buckle up.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So he starts off with a real curveball.
What does he say?
He won't say if he's talked to Putin or not.
Oh, come on. That's classic Trump.
Yeah, it is, right? It just fuels all the
It
speculation.
makes everyone wonder what's really going on.
Exactly. And it raises questions about how he's going to deal with Russia.
Especially with the whole Ukraine situation still going on.
Yeah, you can't just ignore that.
No, not at all.
So then, he talks about making peace in Ukraine,
Hey.
but he doesn't actually say he'll protect their borders, their sovereignty.
That's a big deal, right?
Yeah, it is. He's basically just focusing on how many people have died.
And saying we shouldn't send those long-range missiles.
Right, because he thinks it'll make things worse.
Escalate the conflict.
Exactly.
So, I mean, is this a smart move?
Yeah, is he trying to de-escalate things?
Or is he just, like, okay with giving up some of Ukraine to get a win?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to know what he's really thinking.
Right, and then he switches gears completely.
Where does he go next?
He starts talking about the Middle East.
Oh, wow. Another hot topic.
And he says it's, quote, easier to solve than the Ukraine thing.
Easier. Really?
That's what he says.
How is that even possible?
Well, he mentions some productive things happening.
But then, of course, he doesn't say what they are.
Classic Trump, right? Leave him wanting more.
It's like he's always got a secret.
Yeah, keeps everyone guessing.
But, without any details.
We can't really tell if he's actually accomplishing anything.
It's all just talk for now.
Exactly. So then there's this other thing he says.
Oh, what's that?
He suggests that Kim Jong-un is basically waiting for him.
Waiting for him?
For what? To take office before, things escalate in North Korea.
Oh, that's unsettling.
Yeah, right. What does that even mean?
Like, do they have some secret understanding?
Maybe it's like he's trying to manipulate the situation.
It just adds another layer of crazy to the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. And his words about the October 7th attacks,
The ones in Israel?
Yeah, those are interesting too.
How so?
He calls it a tragedy for the whole world.
Not just for Israel.
Right. Which is, I don't know, maybe a shift in how he sees things.
Or maybe he's trying to distance himself from it all.
Could be. It's hard to say for sure.
All right, well, let's bring it back home for a minute.
Okay.
Back to the U.S.
Yeah, the interview also covers some of those, really controversial social issues.
Like what?
Abortion, for one.
Oh, yeah, that's always a big one.
So, Trump doesn't rule out the FDA, limiting access to the abortion pill.
Oh, wow.
But he says it's really unlikely.
So he's trying to, walk a fine line there.
Yeah, appeal to both sides without really committing to anything.
Makes sense. It's a smart move politically. And then there's the transgender issue.
Oh, right. He said he wants to look into protections for trans kids.
Yeah, he doesn't really answer those questions about bathroom access or anything like that.
But he does say it's a small number of people.
Yeah, but then he says it's torn the country apart.
That's Trump for you.
Right. Like stirring things up.
Even when it's about something that affects a pretty small group of people.
Exactly. And just to be clear, he says he's totally against stopping the use of the abortion pill.
Uh-huh.
But he doesn't completely rule out, making it harder to get.
So again, he's leaving his options open.
Exactly. Keeps everyone guessing.
So, lots to unpack there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like he's trying to, walk a tightrope on these issues.
Try not to upset anyone too much.
but also staying true to, his base.
That's the balancing act, isn't it?
Always is with politics.
So yeah, he's being very careful about what he says.
Doesn't want to alienate anyone who might vote for him.
Exactly. It's all about strategy.
Okay, so this is just the beginning of our deep dive.
We've only scratched the surface.
Join us for the next part where we dig even deeper into Trump's plans.
We'll be talking about pardons, potential investigations.
And what all this means for America.
And of course, what it means for you, the listener.
Because it all comes back to that in the end, right?
Right. How does this affect your life?
Stay tuned.
It's kind of scary, right?
Yeah, like we're at this really important point in history.
It feels like things could go any which way.
And Trump has definitely tacked into something powerful.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Like all that, resentment and anger, people wanting things to go back to how they used to be.
That feeling that things were better back then.
It's powerful stuff,
Once you unleash those emotions.
It's hard to put them back in the box.
Right, like opening Pandora's box.
That's a good way to put it.
You never know what's going to come out.
And that brings me to the last thing I want to talk about.
Okay, what's that?
What really straightened me in this interview was how Trump is so focused on undoing things.
Like reversing what's been done.
Yeah, instead of, building something new.
So is this all about progress?
Or is it more about revenge?
Yeah. That's the question, isn't it?
Like, what's really driving him?
It's something all of us need to think about.
As we go into these next 4 years.
Right, because if he manages to tear down so much...
What's going to replace it?
Exactly. What's going to fill that void?
And will it be good for everyone?
Or just for a select few? We've learned a lot about Trump from this interview.
About his plans, his ideas.
But it also raises some, really serious questions.
About the future of our country?
About what kind of democracy we want to be.
It's a reminder that we're living in a really divided time.
We're all on different sides.
And things could get even more, volatile.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty out there.
But what we've talked about today...
It should make you think.
And encourage you to stay informed.
Read different viewpoints, challenge your assumptions.
Because that's how we make good decisions.
As citizens, as voters.
Exactly. We've given you the tools to understand Trump's vision.
And how it could affect your life.
Now it's up to you to use those tools.
To keep the conversation going.
To push for the future you want.
Because in the end, it's all about what we do with this information.
So that's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Stay curious, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time.